Hiya and welcome to Brain to Page. Apologies for the gap last week. I couldn't put a video up because I came down with the flu and I'm still not 100%, but I thought I'll get on with doing another video this week. So last time out we talked about writing fragments and why they can actually be really useful when you're starting to write, but at the same time I realised after I'd put it up that you do also need to actually finish things as well. So this week we're going to talk about how you can focus to actually finish your writing projects that you've started. It can be really easy when you feel like you've hit a wall to just stop writing, or stop working on that story in particular, and then start working on the next big shiny idea that comes along, because starting something new is quite easy, finishing's a lot harder, but that is what we need to learn how to do. Not all stories, as I explained last week, really need to be finished, but in this case I think it's good to talk about the ones that do. So if you're halfway through a novel in particular, you will hit a wall. If you're halfway through quite a long short story, you will hit a wall. Particularly if, like me, you're used to writing quite short form things, the minute you go above about, 5,000 words maybe, you're like, oh my god, what do I do? So this is what we're going to talk about now. So the first thing you need to do when you realise that you need to finish something and you don't really necessarily know how, is remember why you actually started writing it in the first place. So it may be that it was inspired by a true story. It may have been inspired by something that you overheard. You may have been inspired by a fact or an anecdote that you read somewhere and that you felt deserved exploration. And if that's the case, then it's really your responsibility to make sure that it gets finished, because that fact either needs to be shared or that true story needs to be shared. Maybe it'll be inspirational for other people, whatever the reason may be. If you remember what it was that made you start writing that story in the first place, hopefully that'll get you going again. But that doesn't always work like that. Your other thing that you can try is to actually reread the story from the beginning. And there's a lot of people will always say when you're writing to just get the words down, just keep writing, just power through. Don't look behind you. And yeah, that's fair enough. But I actually think it's possibly not the best way to go. I know this is probably going to get quite a lot of disagreement from quite a lot of people, but I do believe that when you get stuck, the best thing you can do is to go back and reread from the beginning. And it's definitely something that I do, because it may well be that the reason why you've gotten stuck is maybe you're not quite sure where to take the story next, and it's only by rereading it that you remember where you've already been and then go, oh we'll see now, if I combine those two things I can finish the story, which is something that you wouldn't have access to if you'd not reread it from the beginning. It's also quite a good way as well if you reread it and then get excited about the story again, and then you're like, oh wow, no, this is actually quite good. That in itself can be enough to get you to keep writing. So definitely don't edit, but just reread it from the beginning again and then see if that might help. If that doesn't work, the other thing I would recommend that you try is, if you feel that you've gotten stuck and you've written up to a certain point, so you've written up to point A and you know where the story needs to go next, and there's a point B but you're not quite sure how to get from one to the other, then there's nothing stopping you actually just simply writing from point B. So write as if you've already done the bit that you're stuck on. You can maybe put in a couple of sentences like, and so and such happened, and then just keep going. Or maybe you might even write something, I've been known to do this, I need to write something else in here but I'm not quite sure what yet, and then I'll just start writing as if I've already done that part, because sometimes you can get to a point in a scene where you know what's logically going to happen next to continue the story, but you're not sure how to get to that point from where you are now. So just skip ahead. I know that sounds really straightforward, but yeah, just skip ahead to the bit where you know what happens next, and then finish writing it. It may be when you then come back to the end and look back, you might go, oh, you know what, actually I don't even need the bit in between. The reader is intelligent enough to realise that scene ends here, scene begins here, and then you can just keep going. It may be that whatever summary you wrote was fine and you can just leave it, or you may just need to rework a little bit in the middle and maybe either add a couple of paragraphs, maybe add a whole new scene. But by that point you'll know what needs to happen in there, because you'll know how the characters got from where they were when you were stuck to where they were when you were unstuck. So that's my advice, just skip ahead. You don't have to write sequentially. I don't anyway. Sometimes I write the scene I want to write first, and then I go back and fill in the gaps, which is probably horrifically bad practice, but it works for me. So that is my 3 handy tips on how to regain your focus to actually finish a writing project. As ever, I'm going to put a writing prompt at the end of this video. I've also now got a list as well. So if you would like to receive my book of prompts, which is 25 prompts, both written and photographic, to help you get going, then there's a link underneath. And I only ever send emails about once a month with tips you might find useful, any ebooks I've come across that might be helpful for your writing craft, and other bits and pieces like that. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. If you have, if you want to hit the thumbs up below. If you haven't already subscribed, maybe consider doing that, and then you'll be notified when I upload new ones. But other than that, have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week with another tip. Toodaloo.